Hello everyone, welcome to Southern Wreaths. If you haven't yet, please subscribe to my channel and be sure to give me a thumbs up. Today I'm making this really beautiful Valentine's wreath. This is the mesh and the base I'm using. I'm doing two 10-inch meshes on top of each other, and I'm going to use the pull-through method. I have a 14-inch wire frame from Dollar Tree. And I'm just going to attach it to the underneath, like the bottom part of my wreath with a zip tie. You will not need any pipe cleaners for this wreath. I gathered them together and attached them. If you're using a wreath frame that has 4 sections, I'll kind of try to remember to give you tips throughout. But you basically just skip one of the rings on the center, and it might be a little bit tougher to get both of the meshes through, but I think you can probably do it. So I'm going to trim everything away before I start. Now, I will be honest with you, I went through and did this entire wreath and hated what it looked like, hated the way it was fluffing. So I pulled it completely apart. You can see how rough my mesh looks right here, and I'm just starting over. So don't be afraid to start over if you need to. So I'm just kind of gathering it together, kind of squeezing it so I can fit it through the frame. And the easiest way for me to do this double mesh method was to fluff it as I go. I'm going to do 6 poofs total in each section. So there'll be 3 on the left side, 3 on the right. I'm going to pull through each ring. I'm going to fluff it to where it's like overlapped. If you wanted to do 2 different colors, it might be a little bit tricky to do that right here, but you could probably play around with it and get it to fluff the way you like it. I didn't think it looked good when I pulled mine separate, so I just kept it overlapped like that. And you can see the pink through it. And they're roughly 5 inches. My biggest headache after this point was to keep my mesh flat because I had to pull it apart. It didn't want to lay flat. You won't have that issue if your roll is new. It'll be nice and flat. But I'm basically just squeezing it together, pushing it through, and then I worry about the way it looks after it's above. And I'm trying to keep it about the same size as the one next to it, and that way it stays nice and uniform. And you want to squeeze it in your hand underneath. I kind of have a fist around it while I'm working on the others. That will keep you from pulling the existing poof. You'll only be pulling from the mesh that you want to pull from. And see here, I'm on the outer layer. And I've been doing the same thing with all of them. I pull it through and then I kind of measure it and then I'll poof it. And you could do this with just one layer of 10-inch mesh. You'll just want to have a mesh that you can't see through. Now, this isn't the kind of wreath that you'll add ruffles or anything to unless you want to mess with pipe cleaners after the fact. So here you can see I have it all together in my fist, pushed all the way to the side, and this gives me plenty of room to work on the other side. After fussing with it for a little while, I found that this first section I needed to twist to pull it up. I'm not sure why it was only this section that I needed to do that with, but I didn't twist it anywhere else. But it's not going to hurt if you twist it before you pull it to the inside. So I just went from the outside poof to all the way to the inside. And then I'm just going to start that section over again. And then just pulling it apart. And I'm trying to keep it in kind of a dome shape. So you can kind of pull back. You see how my hand's in there? So I pulled out more than I needed. So I'm putting my hand in there and then pulling it tight around my hand to get the shape I want. And then when I pull my hand out, I've got a perfect poof. I wouldn't say perfect, but I've got a poof. And I'm going to go ahead and show you how I do these 2 sections. It does take a minute, so if you've got it, if you understand, you can go ahead and skip forward. But I really wanted to make sure you understood how to do it. This is not an easy method by any means. Honestly, I wanted to throw it. It was really frustrating to get it to pull through, especially with these Dollar Tree wreath frames. They have these little tabs that stick out, and my mesh kept wanting to grab on it. But it's beautiful, and if you don't have pipe cleaners, it's a great way to still make a wreath. If anyone's interested in following me on social media, you can find me on Instagram at Southern Wreaths More, on Facebook at Southern Wreaths, and I also have a Facebook group called Southern Wreaths and More. I also have all of these links in the description below. Now you see here as I'm finishing this particular section, I'll show you how to start the next section. It's basically the same as when you go up to the second one, but I don't twist it this time. I didn't find that I needed to twist it again after the first time. And now I'm just trying to flatten the mesh as much as possible as I'm pulling it through. So there are times I had to stop and keep flattening it out because it wasn't cooperating. A tip here, you want to make sure that your mesh is facing you, meaning that when you pull it to the center, it might twist. And when you're poofing it in, you want to make sure it's all staying the same way. I hope I explained that right. Because it could twist around and then you end up with the pink up because you get the back of the mesh because it twisted. So you just want to be mindful of that as you're going through and make sure you're pushing the white up first. Unless you want to switch colors, which in that case you would just twist it and pull it through. And then you can just alternate colors. That might actually be really cool. I might have to make one like that. Alright, I'm just going to let y'all listen to some music while I finish this because I show you how to finish the whole thing. Just be sure to leave me any questions in the comments, or you can also email me at craftingwithlee@yahoo.com. Okay, I did want to point out that you see how I have 3 rings going around. If you have the one that has the 4 rings, what you could do is just pick a ring in the center that you want to be your main ring, or you can alternate. It doesn't really matter because they're so close together, it won't make that big of a difference. If you find it's too hard to push them through the really thin, wires because they're so close together, you could also do the inside and outside. I don't know how great that would look. You might have to make your poofs a little bit bigger to cover up everything. I personally think these are the way to go as far as doing the pull-through method because they're spaced pretty far apart. Ugh. Okay, so now I'm just going to fluff it, make sure all the wires covered up, make sure things are overlapped and twisted. You don't want everything to go in order. Okay, so I wanted to add a sign to this, but again, this is a no pipe cleaner wreath. So I'm going to show you how to do that with the zip tie. This sign has a hanger on it. I'm just feeding it through and attaching it to the hanger. You don't want to pull it too tight because it'll sink down into the wreath and then the bottom will pop out. But if you do it just enough and do it in the center of the mesh, it'll hold your wreath there. If you're selling a wreath like this, you probably do want to attach it at the bottom somehow. So that's when you would add a pipe cleaner or wire or however you attach signs to your wreath. And then you want to be sure to trim it away and then fluff around it so you can't see the zip tie or the hanger. So I decided it needed some ribbon. So I am showing you how I add ribbon to a wreath without pipe cleaners. I only dovetail one side of it when I'm doing this method because I don't want the end to fray as I'm pushing it through the wire, because you have to kind of be rough with it. I am folding it in half to find the center so that I know where to stop pulling it through. And I'm basically finding a spot somewhere in the middle and just pushing it under the bar and pulling it through. You pull it until you get to that crease, and that's when I'll trim away the other side. But if you wanted to use pipe cleaners, you could. But this method, I started doing this a long time ago when I had ran out of pipe cleaners, but I still wanted to make a wreath. Alright, I trimmed it away, and now I'm just going to fluff it. And you can add as much or as little ribbon as you want. I just kind of went around and did 5 spots. Just spaced them evenly. But that's it. That's how I made my pull-through Valentine's wreath. If you have any questions, again, please leave them in the comments below, or you can email me at craftingwithlee@yahoo.com. Thank y'all so much for watching, and if you learned anything today or if you like my video, please be sure to like, share, and subscribe. Thank you.